Hi, Maury Mole here. As promised, my read-through and review of the storybook for Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. You may hear some chirps. That's my bird, Sweetie. Say hi. So I'm going to read through this first. As you can see, this is the new release of the storybooks. They have this pretty foil covering and a little hole where it has the inset of the picture that's in the book. And I will put some affiliate links for this book in the description. I may make a commission if you make a purchase through those links, but just letting you know that will be down there. So let's begin. Okay, first page, there's the to and from, and there's Kylo Ren and Rey fighting on the Death Star. Nice picture. Okay, this one's written by Ella Patrick. The previous storybooks were written by Elizabeth Schaefer, I believe, and illustrated by Brian Rood, who has done all the other books as well. There's Palpatine in the corner, Rey and Leia. Let's begin. A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, the dead speak. The galaxy has heard a mysterious broadcast, a threat of revenge, and the sinister voice of the late Emperor Palpatine. General Leia Organa dispatches secret agents to gather intelligence, while Rey, the last hope of the Jedi, trains for battle against the diabolical First Order. Meanwhile, Supreme Leader Kylo Ren rages in search of the Phantom Emperor, determined to destroy any threat to his power. Okay. Rey ran through the jungle of the remote world Ajin class with BB close at her heels. Lightsaber ablaze, she deflected blast after blast from a red training remote as she leapt over rocks and tree roots. Rey was training to be a Jedi Knight under the watchful and encouraging eye of General Leia Organa, the leader of the fledgling Resistance. If the Resistance had any hope of defeating the evil First Order and Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, Rey needed to be prepared. Suddenly in a vision, flashes of lightning and the impression of a jagged claw-like throne appeared before her. Rey saw her parents calling out to her, then sensed an evil figure with a cruel cackle. Finally, Rey saw Kylo Ren offering his hand to her, hoping she would join him in his quest to control the galaxy. This was not the first time Rey had seen such dark visions. She believed in what she was fighting for alongside Leia and the Resistance, and yet sometimes she questioned herself. Who was she? Was she really who she thought she was? Okay, we'll get Kylo here. The Supreme Leader of the First Order, Kylo Ren, has sensed the same evil presence as Rey, but he saw this figure as a threat to his own power, so the Dark Warrior tore through the galaxy, searching for answers until he finally found Darth Vader's Sith Wayfinder, a compass that could lead Kylo through the dangerous unknown regions of the galaxy to the desolate planet Exegol. On Exegol, Kylo encountered the once almighty Emperor Palpatine. Now a broken shred of what he once was, the Emperor had been secretly manipulating the galaxy from the shadows, creating and shaping the evil First Order from afar, and building up a massive Sith fleet of Star Destroyers. The Emperor now offered Kylo that fleet, along with the promise of a new empire in exchange for just one thing, the eradication of any hope that the Jedi might return to power embodied in young Rey. Okay, a double spread here. Across the galaxy, the Resistance continued its fight against the First Order by searching for valuable information. The Millennium Falcon, piloted by Poe Dameron and Chewbacca, raced through the icy Cinta Glacier colony. When the ship was in position, Finn, the former First Order trooper-turned-Resistance fighter, called up an ally known as Bulio. The horn-faced alien dropped the cable down to Finn, which he connected to the faithful droid R2-D2 to retrieve the data Bulio had gathered for them from a spy within the First Order. Suddenly, a swarm of First Order TIE fighters appeared on the Falcon's scanners. The heroes needed to get out of there, and fast. Poe managed to maneuver the old ship through the colony's tight corridors as Flynn blasted at the TIEs from the gunner's seat. The Falcon burst to hyperspace through a wall of ice, but the TIEs followed them. Without another choice, Poe, who always seemed to have a new dangerous trick up his sleeve, grabbed the yoke of the Falcon and proceeded to light-speed skip from planet to planet to lose the enemy ships. Ooh, nice picture. Meanwhile, Kylo Ren, excited by the Emperor's promise of even greater power, gathered up his enclave of elite masked warriors known as the Knights of Ren. He then called upon a Sith alchemist to fuse a shattered helmet back together with a bright red molten substance. Kylo was determined to defeat Rey. destroy the hope of the Resistance and the Jedi, and claim his power from the Emperor to become what his own grandfather had not. There's Rey and Leia. Okay. Back at the hidden Resistance base on Agen Class, the Falcon returned, and Poe and Finn shared Bulio's intel with Leia and the Resistance. Emperor Palpatine had indeed returned and was on Exegol. There he developed the largest fleet, known as the Final Order, the galaxy had ever known. The attack on all free worlds would begin in less than a day. The Resistance needed to find Exegol. Rey had an old Jedi text containing a Jedi Master Luke Skywalker's notes from when he was searching for a Sith Wayfinder. She knew that in order to find Exegol, they needed to pick up where Luke's search had gone cold, on the desert planet Pisana. General Leia gave Rey's Luke's lightsaber in a parting message. Never be afraid of who you are. Okay, double spread. I actually like this picture. Rey, Finn, Poe, Chewbacca, C-3PO, and BB-8 soon landed the Falcon on Pisana's craggy terrain. When the friends disembarked from the ship and rounded a rocky outcropping, they were shocked to find a massive, colorful festival taking place before them. Thousands of tall aliens known as the Aki-Aki danced and celebrated as huge plumes of bright smoke and colorful kites filled the sky. Rey kneeled as a young Aki-Aki girl gave her a necklace, when suddenly everything darkened, and Kylo Ren was standing before her. The masked warrior warned that he would find her soon enough. This had happened before, so Rey knew Kylo was not actually in front of her. But this time, Kylo reached out through the connection and snatched the Aki-Aki necklace from Rey's neck. The darkness turned to daylight once more as Rey staggered back to reality, only to realize that a stormtrooper had noticed her and her friends. The trooper aimed his blaster at them, but was suddenly knocked off his feet by a powerful arrow. Okay, that's Lando and Rey. The arrow had been fired by a helmeted hermit who turned out to be Leia's old friend, the rebel hero Lando Calrissian. Lando explained how he and Luke had followed an old Jedi hunter, Ochia Bestoon, to Pisana years before. Ochia was rumored to be carrying a clue that would lead to the Wayfinder, but at the time they had only found Ochi's abandoned ship in the desert. Lando told Rey and the others where they could find Ochi's ship, just as the TIE fighters flew overhead. Kylo Ren's officers had analyzed Rey's Aki-Aki necklace to find her exact location. Next picture. Poe, using another shifty trick up his sleeve, hot-wired 2 speeders so the friends could travel across the desert to find Ochi's abandoned ship. They were soon followed by First-Order troopers on speeders and jet troopers who blasted the heroes from above. Rey and Poe navigated the rocky terrain and managed to lose the troopers, but in the process they were thrown from their own speeders. Let's see, can I turn the page here? I think it's stuck there. There we go. Okay. Chewie. I like Chewie. Yeah, okay. The friends landed in the black sands of a shifting mire. They struggled to climb out of the sinking fields, but it was no use. One by one, Rey, Finn, Poe, Chewbacca, and C-3PO and BB-8 were sucked down into the sand. Fortunately, they soon dropped into a series of strange tunnels where the glow of Rey's saber fell on a crashed speeder bearing a hex charm. C-3PO explained that it was an emblem used by Sith loyalists. The speeder had belonged to Ochi, the Jedi hunter Luke and Lando had been searching for. I actually really like this picture, by the way, this one right here. Among the wreckage of Ochi's speeder, BB-8 found an old dagger with strange markings etched onto the blade. Rey shuddered as she held it. She could feel the pain the dagger had inflicted over the years. C-3PO read the Sith markings and shared that the location of the Wayfinder was inscribed on the blade. The friends were thrilled, until C-3PO explained that he could not share the Wayfinder's location with them because his programming prevented him from translating the runic language of the Sith. Ooh, I like this picture too, just because I like the Vexes. And that wasn't the friends' only problem. A terrifying Vexus had found them in the tunnels and reared up, ready to attack. Most of the heroes stumbled back in panic, but Rey passed her lightsaber to Finn and calmly took a step toward the serpent. She sensed something was wrong with the Vexus, and as she came closer, she saw that it was wounded. The creature hissed menacingly as Rey gently reached out her hand toward the wound and began to heal the creature by transferring life, or force energy, from herself to the serpent. With a final friendlier hiss, the Vexus slithered off, leaving Rey and the others to continue on their journey. I love that big allegory for Ben Solo. I mean, that's what he is, you know, the Vexus. Okay, and it's a double spread with the Knights of Ren. Okay, just leave that there. The friends managed to gather from the tunnels. Hold on, I'm going to shift the book a little. The friends managed to emerge from the tunnels and knew they needed to get off Basana before they were spotted again. They were sure the First Order would have seized the Falcon by then, so they followed Lando's instructions to Ochi's abandoned ship. Rey told the others that she would meet them on board. Poe, Finn, Chewbacca, and the droids quickly set to work repairing the ship. When Chewie went to find Rey so they could leave, he was captured by First Order troopers. Finn realized what had happened, but could only watch helplessly as the troopers escorted a shackled Chewie onto a nearby transport. One trooper held up Ochi's dagger, which he had pulled from Chewbacca's bandolier. Chewbacca's capture was unknown to Rey, who had sensed Kylo Ren nearby. She had wandered and discovered the Supreme Leader's modified TIE Whisper, racing low over the rocky terrain at an extreme speed. Okay, that's Kylo Ren's ship right there, and there's Rey in the corner. Rey steadied herself and calmed her mind, focusing on the Force flowing through her. As Kylo's ship raced toward her, Rey ran out in front of it. She leapt up and over the tie with her lightsaber ignited, and in one swift motion sliced through the wing of the ship, causing the craft to crash to the sand. Furious, Kylo Ren emerged from the wrecked cockpit and threw his helmet to the ground. But there was no time to celebrate. Finn yelled to Rey that the First Order had captured Chewie and pointed to a flying transport. Rey's mind raced. She reached out with the Force to pull the transport back to the ground. The ship listed in the air, but then Rey felt the transport slipping from her grasp. From across the desert, Kylo Ren was also using the Force to pull the ship. Okay, it's another double-page spread right here. Rey struggled to pull the transport back, straining harder than she ever had before. Suddenly, blue electricity erupted from her fingertips and crackled through the sky, engulfing the transport. The ship exploded, and Rey stumbled back in horror. Finn ran to his friend and urged her onto Ochi's ship so they could take off before they too were captured. Rey was racked with guilt. Chewbacca was gone, and it was all her fault. As the friends flew away from Pasana, BB-8 discovered a small droid on Ochi's ship. BB-8 powered up the droid named Deal. The little droid looked up at BB-8 affectionately. Meanwhile, Finn and Poe worked to come up with a new plan. They didn't have the dagger anymore, but C-3PO remembered the transcription, even if he couldn't translate it. To learn the location of the Wayfinder, they would need a black market droidsmith to bypass C-3PO's programming. Fortunately, Poe knew just where to find one on the snowy planet Kijimi. Okay, and this is Rey and Zorii. Poe was uneasy being back on the icy planet. The heroes wore heavy brown coats to hide their identities and keep themselves warm as they hurried through the stone alleyways. Suddenly, they were stopped by a fierce scoundrel wielding 2 blasters. The woman's identity was hidden by a gleaming golden mask, but Poe knew her to be his old friend Zorii. Though it was clear that she was not happy to see him again. Zorii explained how Poe used to run illegal spice on Kijimi until he deserted their crew, for which Zorii had never forgiven him. It was only after Rey expressed the urgency of their mission by knocking Zorii to the ground and flashing her lightsaber that the masked figure, clearly impressed by Rey's skills, agreed to take them to the small droidsmith Babu Frick. Okay, and there's C-3PO and Babu Frick. Okay, let's look at that again. Babu Frick got to work right away, pulling wires and fiddling with various parts of C-3PO's head. Suddenly, C-3PO's eyes flashed red, and he began to translate the Sith language from the dagger. The Wayfinder was in an Imperial vault on a moon in the Indoor system. But it was clear from the rest of the translation that to find the Wayfinder they would need the dagger, which had been in Chewie's bandolier. Outside, a First Order Star Destroyer floated overhead, and Rey sensed that Chewie was alive on that very ship. Poe tried to convince Zorii to join them in their mission, but she pressed a First Order Captain's medallion into Poe's hand and told him to go. As Kylo Ren descended in a TIE to search for Rey in the city, the heroes headed straight for the Star Destroyer. With Zori's medallion, they soon landed Ochi's ship in one of the destroyer's hangar bays. The droids stayed on the ship while Finn and Poe searched for Chewie, and Rey went to find the dagger. Okay. Another big picture here. Finn and Poe managed to find and free Chewbacca, but the 3 were soon captured by stormtroopers and very nearly executed. Fortunately, Billy's spy within the First Order stepped in and rescued them at the last moment. The spy was none other than General Hux, a First Order officer and longtime rival of Kylo Ren. Hux did not necessarily care about helping the Resistance with the war. He simply wanted to ensure that Kylo Ren would lose. He led Finn, Poe, and Chewbacca to where the First Order was holding a Millennium Falcon so the heroes could escape. Okay, and this is Kylo and Rey fighting on his quarters. Well, he's on Kijimi at this point. Meanwhile, Rey had found Kylo Ren's personal quarters, where she saw what remained of Darth Vader's mangled black mask and the dagger. Suddenly, Kylo Ren appeared before her in a forced connection. He was down in the snowy streets of Kijimi, and he needed to know where Rey was to have her captured. The two sparred with their lightsabers, and Kylo taunted Rey with knowledge about her parents. Then Rey accidentally knocked Vader's mask from its plinth, and it landed in the snow at Kylo's feet. Their forced connection ended abruptly, and Kylo knew that she was on board his Star Destroyer. Rey ran back to the hangar and handed the dagger to C-3PO just as Kylo arrived. The two circled each other tensely, and the Dark Warrior revealed that Rey was none other than the evil Emperor Palpatine's granddaughter. Rey's parents had sacrificed themselves to save her, leaving her on the desert planet Jakku to hide her from the Emperor. Rey didn't want to believe him, but she sensed it was the truth. Because of their ancestry, Kylo and Rey were a dyad in the Force. Kylo held out his hand to Rey, offering her the chance to defeat the Emperor and rule the galaxy with him. Okay, this is a Finn and Rey picture. Okay. Suddenly, the Falcon appeared next to the hangar with all of Rey's friends inside. Poe flared the ship's thrusters, and a rush of energy caused Kylo's troopers to lose their footing. Kylo managed to hold his ground and watched as Rey leapt from the edge of the hangar and grabbed Finn's hand as he leapt out from the Falcon's loading ramp. Poe and Chewbacca piloted the ship away from the Star Destroyer and punched in the coordinates for Kef Bir, an ocean moon of Endor. Their mission remained. They needed to find the Wayfinder so they could locate Exegol and stop the Emperor from unleashing his deadly Sith fleet on the galaxy. Let's go look down here. Okay. I'll keep that there. Once on Kef Bir, the heroes looked out over a stormy sea at a large piece of wreckage from the Empire's second Death Star. Rey extended a piece of the dagger's handle and found that it perfectly matched the arc of the wreckage on the horizon, and there was a small piece of scarlet metal that pointed to a specific spot on the ruins. Okay, let's go over here. Rey knew that was where the Wayfinder would be located. Soon, a woman named Jenna approached on a horse-like creature called an Orback. She and her friends offered to help them. She had picked up a transmission from Babu Frick, who said the last hope of the Resistance would be headed their way. Okay, I'm trying to get the page to turn again. There we go. Okay. Jenna warned them that the sea surrounding the Death Star wreckage was too dangerous to cross at that time, but Rey refused to listen. Instead, she took a small skimmer and piloted it by herself over the towering waves. There was no time to lose. Rey managed to reach what remained of the Death Star and climbed through the wreckage to find the Emperor's throne room, where she noticed the vault off to one side. As Rey stepped through the vault and into a dark and shattered hall of mirrors, her eyes caught the Wayfinder. But as she took it in her hand, she sensed something sinister nearby. Ooh, good page. Turning, Rey saw a double-cloaked figure with flaming double-bladed lightsaber. It was a version of herself, pale with darker eyes, yet strong and wearing a Sith cloak. The figure encouraged Rey to embrace who she really was. When Rey refused, the figure flashed her pointed fangs and attacked with the double-bladed lightsaber. Rey was knocked back out of the vault, and the Wayfinder tumbled to the ground, landing at the feet of Kylo Ren. He had followed her on her journey. Kylo sneered at Rey, telling her that she would never be welcomed back by the Resistance, now that her true identity had been revealed. He tried to coax her into surrendering to the dark side of the Force. Then he smashed the Wayfinder. Okay, there's the big picture of Kylo and Rey. Love them. Rey ignited her blue lightsaber, and the two battled through the wreckage of the Death Star, out to a strip of ruins exposed to the massive waves around them. Their lightsabers flashed and clashed as the two dueled in the midst of the torrential waves that crashed down on them. Rey and Kylo leapt over waves and chasms in the wreckage, and through it all, one could not gain an advantage over the other. They were, after all, a dyad in the Force, two halves of a powerful whole. Okay, there's that golden medallion. From the Resistance base on Ajan Klas, Leia sensed the battle that raged on Kef Bir. It was so far away, and yet it felt so very near to her. Leia knew this was her last opportunity to try to connect with her wayward son through the Force, and she knew it would take all the strength she had left. She held his father's Medal of Bravery tightly and called out to her son, using the name she had given him, Ben. Ah, there's Ben and Rey. Ben heard his mother through the Force and dropped his lightsaber. But Rey was so focused on the fight at hand that she picked up the dropped saber and struck her opponent before she realized what was happening. They both sensed Leia becoming one with the Force and fell to their knees. Rey's eyes filled with tears as she was crushed by the loss of her friend and teacher. She turned her gaze to Leia's wounded son and knew what she needed to do. Rey reached out and transferred some of her life energy to Ben, healing him. Then she ran to his TIE fighter and zoomed away from Kef Bir. So it's on this page they start calling him Ben for the rest of the book. Okay, fire! Big fiery scene. Rey flew to the planet Ahch-To. This is where Jedi Master Luke Skywalker had fled for solitude, and she planned to do the same. Rey lit the TIE on fire so she wouldn't be able to leave and tossed her lightsaber into the flames for good measure. But someone caught the saber. It was Luke Skywalker. Now one of the Force, but as present with Rey as he had been when he trained her. He explained to Rey that he and Leia had known about her lineage, but they had trained and trusted her anyway because they saw her spirit and knew some things were stronger than blood. Luke told her that confronting fear was the destiny of a Jedi, and Rey needed to confront hers. Luke gave Rey Leia's old lightsaber. He trained his sister in the ways of the Jedi many years before, and he knew she would have wanted Rey to have it, to finish the journey they had started together. Rey looked over at the burning TIE fighter. She was able to salvage the Wayfinder inside, but there was no way the ship would fly again. How would she get the Exegol? Okay, that's Blue Luke and the X-Wing. As if in reply, Luke walked over to a cliff that overlooked the sea, raised his hand, and used the Force to raise his old X-Wing from the water below. Rey had everything she needed. Across the galaxy, Poe, Finn, and Chewbacca and the droids had returned to the Resistance base on Agent Class, but the loss of General Organa had devastated what remained of the troops. All seemed lost until Finn discovered that Dio contained stores of information about Exegol from his days on Nochi's ship. The heroes had all the information they needed for an airstrike against the Emperor, except the exact location of the planet itself. But right at that moment, R2-D2 was picking up a signal from Luke Skywalker's X-Wing. It was Rey, and she was leading the way to Exegol. Rey and the Resistance would need to act quickly to put a stop to the Emperor's plans. On Exegol, a seemingly unending fleet of enormous Sith Star Destroyers emerged from the surface and hung ominously just within the planet's atmosphere. Almost at the end. Okay, that's a little hard to look at there, but there's Rey and Palpatine. Rey arrived on the desolate planet and made her way through an ancient foreboding citadel lined with massive Sith sculptures. She soon found herself in front of the jagged claw-like throne from her visions. A sickly robed figure hooked up to some sort of life-sustaining contraption emerged. It was her grandfather, the Emperor. He urged her to claim her birthright and sit on the throne as Empress. But Rey remained resolute. She had come to Exegol to end the Sith. Okay, and there's a bunch of Star Destroyers. Just then, Poe and the small Resistance fleet arrived in the atmosphere of Exegol. They had sent out a call for help to the entire galaxy, but there was no guarantee that any help would come. They needed to destroy as much of the enormous Sith fleet as possible while they still could. Alright, big picture here of Ben Solo. Woohoo! Big boy. But Poe and the Resistance weren't the only ones to arrive. Leia's passing had helped Ben Solo realize that if it wasn't too late to fight for what was right. He landed on Exegol in an old TIE fighter from the Death Star and was ready to fight the Emperor alongside Rey. But the Knights of Ren stepped from the shadows to stop him. Nearby, as the Emperor tried to convince Rey to give in to her anger, strike him down and take her place on the Sith throne, Rey sensed Ben's presence. She reached for Luke's saber and sent it through the Force to Ben, who quickly ignited it to defeat the deadly warriors that surrounded him. The Emperor's guards descended on Rey, so she ignited Leia's saber and deflected their attacks. Okay, and that's the ground attack there. In the atmosphere above the Citadel, the Resistance struck as many of the Sith Star Destroyers as possible. The massive ships could not engage their shields while they were still within the planet's atmosphere, nor could they fire on the smaller ships without damaging their own fleet. Finn, who had enlisted Janna, her friends, and the herd of Orbaks, led a brave ground attack on the surface of the First Order command ship. To stop the fleet from leaving the planet's atmosphere, Finn and Janna needed to take out the command ship's navigational tower. Back in the Citadel, Ben soon joined Rey, and together they faced the Emperor. Lightsabers glowing, Rey and Ben were ready for whatever tricks the Emperor had up his sleeve. But that was exactly what the Emperor wanted, for Rey and Ben, the powerful dyad and the Force, to stand before him. In the movie, he didn't even know they were a dyad until the last minute, so, interesting. Okay, they're being attacked by Palpatine. The Emperor reached out with what remained of his shriveled hand to begin to pull the life energy from Rey and Ben. The two were thrown to their knees, completely paralyzed. There was nothing they could do to stop the Emperor, as he drained them of their life energy and the very force of their bond, a power like life itself, unseen for generations. It had been his plan all along that the power of two would restore the one true Emperor. Rey and Ben collapsed, practically lifeless, as the fully revived Emperor stepped forward. It seemed as though nothing could stop him. Okay, Millennium Falcon. Suddenly, ships from every corner of the galaxy arrived in the atmosphere of Exegol, led by Chewie and Lando flying the Falcon. The Emperor had answered the Resistance. The galaxy had answered the Resistance call for help. They weren't a navy or an organized fleet of fighters. They were just people, individuals from planets of every kind, including Poe's old friend Zorii, and they had shown up to fight for what was right. Okay. Now I'm near the end of the book. It's a little harder to turn the pages. Okay, here we go. Big lightning scene. Okay. The Emperor was enraged by this defiant act of hope, but he was not deterred. He lifted his hands and shot deadly streams of electricity toward the battle above. The electricity crackled over and across and through the Resistance and civilian ships. The Emperor was determined that nothing could stop the return of the Sith. But Rey, lying nearby and completely spent, struggled to focus on the Force. She called out to the 1,000 generation of Jedi who existed before her. Through the Force, it lived inside her, and they answered her call. Okay, and that's the scene where she's fighting with the two lightsabers. Jedi from every age called out Rey's name and reminded her she was not alone. The Force surrounded her, and it would guide her. They urged her to bring balance to the Force. They told her that the strength of the Jedi was in her heart. They said they were behind her, and then called on her to rise and take her final steps. So she did. Rey rose, grabbing Luke and Leia's lightsabers, and with every ounce of her remaining strength, she called on the Force to deflect the Emperor's powerful lightning, sending it back into him and destroying the evil Sith Lord with its own devastating power. When the electric storm subsided, and the Resistance and the civilian ships above were able to finish what they had started, ending the battle once and for all. Rey fell back into the cold floor, empty but at peace. Sweetie, no, we do not eat books. Sweetie, we do not eat books. Yeah, try to tell a bird not to eat a book. Big, beautiful scene right here. And takes up almost the entire book. Love it. Let me move my legs so you can see it. Yeah, there they are. Nearby, Ben struggled to reach Rey. She was nearly gone, and he knew what he needed to do. He held Rey in his arms and passed his remaining life energy to her. Ben became one of the Force, having sacrificed himself to save the person who had sacrificed so much for him, and for the whole galaxy. I know you'll come back, Ben. Okay. This is so hard turning the last page there. There we go. There's Augencloss. Rey, devastated from the losses of the war and yet joyous with hope, reunited with her friends at the Resistance base on Augencloss. The Emperor and the First Order had been defeated once and for all. There could finally be peace in the galaxy and in Rey's heart. Rey traveled to the desert planet Tatooine to Luke Skywalker's old homestead and buried Luke and Leia's lightsabers in the sand. It did not matter where she came from. Rey understood that what was important was who she had become, who had helped her along the way, and who she would choose to be as she continued on her journey, wherever it may lead. The end. Okay, so my review is, it's a beautifully put together book. Brian Rood's art is great. I think I would have chosen a few different scenes for this book, which seems to mostly follow the Golden Book's choice of scene selection. I think I would have preferred Rey and Ben's scene to be kind of a more positive one, like after she woke up, like the Golden Book shows. And I'm a little surprised that the Han and Ben Solo scene was omitted. That seems an odd decision there. I would have liked this book to have been a little bit longer to included that. But overall, I like the book. This particular book uses the artwork has sort of a rough paper look to it. It's not actually a rough paper design, but it just looks like it. And it works very well for the most part, except I think the Ajin class scene is kind of muddy looking in this book. But otherwise, I like the art. I like the presentation of it. Would have chosen different scenes. And you'll notice there were some different interpretations in this book. You know, Ben changes solely because of his mother, Han having no influence there, since they omitted that scene. And this book suggests that Palpatine knew they were a dyad the entire time, which is definitely not true in the movie. He didn't know it until they came in front of him. So that's kind of interesting, too. But, yeah, if you notice anything else, just let me know in the comments. Anyway, I'll put some links at the bottom. You know what? Go and say hi to this girl here. That's the one who photobombed, I guess you might say, or video bombed the page. That's Sweetie. She's an older bird, friend of mine. There's Grogu. Okay, anyway, that's it. Thanks. Bye.